Welcome back to Visual Design for Multimedia. Today we're going to go over how to create kind of a mind map slash radial infographic design using Adobe Illustrator. And we're going to set this up so that it can be easily animated in After Effects. So we're going to pay attention to putting things on their own layers, again, so that when you do import this into After Effects, you've got like individual items on their own layers that can be animated easily in and out. All right, so this is your default page when Illustrator opens up. We're going to go ahead and do, we're going to start this off as sort of like thinking in that high-res design, 2D design direction, because I know with the current project you guys are working on, we're starting off by creating a high-res printable design, and then we're going to size that down to something that's going to work in a 1080p kind of just like HD screen-based resolution, and then you're going to animate it. So it's kind of these three steps with a little baby step in between. One is create this 2D high-res design that can be printed, then convert it down to a lower res for web and for video, and then we're going to animate that in After Effects. So we're going to start off with that high-res design. So I'm going to go ahead and create new. And I'm going to set this up with a width of 17. I'm going to go thinking wide. If this is going to go to HD video, it's kind of a horizontal HD format. So I'm going to do 17. Oops, this is in points. Let me do inches. 17 by 11 in height. And for raster effects, go ahead and leave that at 300 ppi, but I don't think I'm going to bring in any rastered imagery into this one. We're going to stick all vector, and we're going to go ahead and create. And here we go. We've got a nice laid out horizontal layout, right? So just to open up the layers, we only have one layer in here, but I know I'm going to have more, so I'll just kind of add a layer for right now. We'll start with layer 1, and then we'll kind of build things up, and we can always move things around to different layers later so that when, again, we bring this into After Effects later, everything is going to work out. All right, so radial designs are kind of fun. We're going to think like a mind map. So we're going to think about like a central subject that's in the center. And then we're going to create more subjects around the outside. So we're going to start off with a mind map style, and then I'll try to talk about some other ways to like organize more of a radial-based infographic or explainer video, or at least just like one element in your infographic. This might not be the whole infographic, but this might be one element and then have lots of other information kind of spill out from it. So I'm going to come over to my left, hold down, click on my rectangle tool, and grab an ellipse tool. So one way to create a radial shape is just to drag out a circle, right? I held Shift. If I just go loosey-goosey, I get like more of an oval. But if I hold Shift down while I'm dragging, I get a perfect circle. And I don't have a grid turned on or anything yet. So why don't we go ahead and go to View. And if you go down to Show Grid, it's just Command comma is the shortcut for it. You can do that as well. And then we can kind of start to map out where this thing's going to be laid out. So if I delete that again and go to Circle, making a vector circle. The other thing you can do is you can hold down Option, click, and then hit Shift, and it'll actually go out from the center. It'll grow from the center outwards. So sometimes if you want to click in a specific spot, doing the Option Shift is a nice way to go. If I do just Option, I get that loosey-goosey. It still does from the center, but it doesn't hold the aspect ratio of height to width. So that's where I have to have Option Shift, and then I get this perfect circle. I didn't quite get it right on the target there. I want to get it right on the center point if I can. There we go. And then you can see I get this nice circle, and I can use my grid to kind of size it out. So by default, I get a black and white circle. I get a white fill and a black stroke. You can see it's up here up at the top. It's also down here in just sort of my palette window. If I want to switch those, I can hit the letter X on my keyboard or that little arrow. It'll actually give it a white outline with a black fill. Or maybe I don't want a fill, then I hit the None button, and then you can see the grid through it, and then all I have is the outline. So that's one way to do things. I can always click on the stroke then and double click it and change the color. I can do it there, or I can come up here and choose one of these palette colors. I can give it orange. It's not very thick right now, so maybe I need to go up here and change the stroke size, and I want to bring that up to maybe like 10, and then you can really see it. Now, one downside of this is that it's actually not like, you might make like a thick band like this, and in Illustrator it comes up just fine, and I think it'll still come up this way in After Effects, but sometimes you want to actually like animate that shape in a certain way, and you want it to actually be a vector shape and not just be a circle like line that has this stroke attribute to it, right? So in that case, we can create it this way by creating a circle and adding a 40-point stroke on it, or we can go ahead and swap those and make a circle, right? And then if I want to, I can just copy the circle. I did Command C, but you can always go up to Edit and Copy. And then paste in place, which is right here under Edit. Command Shift V, that pastes it right back in the location. If I don't do that, it just pastes it in sort of a random direction. But paste it in place, and then if I hold Option again and Shift, I can drag it down. And just so you can see this a little easier, I'll make this inside circle white now, right? So now I have a white circle on top of an orange circle. If I click on the white one first, and then hold down Shift and click on the orange one, and I go to Window and Show Pathfinder, I already have this in my sidebar, so it's going to pop out. Now I can subtract minus the one that's in the front from the one that's in the back. Now I just subtract that. Now I actually have a shape. Instead of just having, which has like an inside circle and an outside circle, right? So, if I wanted to bring these in later, I can do all sorts of neat stuff where I can change, I can animate things on the inside. So versus a stroke, you couldn't do that because that's just like a single vector shape with a stroke attribute added to it. Now I have this like double-walled circle. So sometimes I like to make things like this because it just gives me more to work with. It's kind of cool. I can click into these, and I just double-clicked into it. You can see I get like so if I just have this, I've got just the band now. If I double-click into it, I'm inside what's called a compound path. Now I can choose just the inner circle, and I can change this. So I can actually animate this and make like a really cool effect with it in After Effects later. So that's just something I like to do versus just a stroke. It just gives me more options down the road, right? So I'm going to leave this one right around here. I hope that made sense to everybody. And then I'm going to grab my text tool, my type tool, and I'm going to say maybe my first topic is climate change. Now I never just click. Something just happened. Let's go ahead and save this real quick before I crash. So let's call this Radial Infographic. Let's save it to my desktop. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to grab my type tool. And I could just click and start typing. Hello, how are you? And that's fine. I have this nice type tool. It works. I can hold Shift and rescale it. If you have more than just like a headline, though, you want to kind of type out a box. I drag out a box with my text, and then, hello, how are you? I'm fine, and you? If I go ahead, so excuse my capitalization there. If I increase this, you can see it automatically defines where the page break is going to be based on the boundaries of that box, which is kind of cool. So again, if I do that, then I can drag this out however I want. So I end up dragging them out a lot. If it's just a headline, drag it however you want. But for now, I'm going to put in climate change. And I'm going to choose a different font. I'm going to come up here and see what's kind of a fun one to use. Maybe impact. It's nice and heavy. And maybe I'll make a return on that. And I'll select them both. And I'm also going to give them center justification. And then I'm doing this all through the top, but you could do it through your type bar as well. And then maybe bump this up a little bit. And, I could always bring that down a little bit more. I can always change those boundaries, but that's pretty good. And I'm going to give it a similar color, maybe just like a slightly deeper to make it pop, or let's go with the orange next to one with the band, just so it's not standing out too much. Now, again, if I just grab the boundaries of that, I'm always going to kind of change the boundaries of just the type. If I click, however, we don't want that right now. Whoops, I clicked on the wrong one. If you ever want to scale a box like this, use the free transform tool, just letter E on your keyboard. You'll see it changes a little bit, and then I can change the size of that text while it still maintains that it's actually a font. It hasn't been turned to paths yet. If you hold down Option and arrows, you can change the leading between your font and your type. And if I choose Option and arrows left, right, I can change the kerning, which is the space horizontally. So again, that Option and your arrows, vertical arrows change the leading, and horizontal arrows change the kerning. This again can all be done through the type menu as well. So if I go, or the character menu, if I go up to here and come down to type and character, I can't believe I don't have those in my sidebar already, but this isn't my main computer. You can do all of that in here as well. So you've got these values that you can set. There's the leading, and the kerning is in here somewhere. I believe this is the kerning. They call it tracking. Oh no, kerning is right here. There we go. It's on auto right now, but I could change it to whatever I want. So you can do it in either place with that option arrow or here. So now I've got some type in here. I'm starting to get where I want it to be. I'm going to kind of center it up on the grid very nicely. There we go. And if I really want to get fancy, I can have that one selected and hold down Shift and select that. And actually, if I'm going to do this, let's just make sure the text comes right up to the bottom of there. And select both of these. And I can always go to Window and Align. And I can align these things vertically and horizontally just to make sure they're perfectly aligned. There you go. Now we're really centered up. If you don't trust your eye, you can always do an alignment like that. And now I've got them really centered up on top of each other. If I want to, I can select both and do Command G, or I believe that's under Object Group. Yeah, so Command or Control G. And now this will always be one group. I don't have to select them anymore. I can always double click into that group, and then they're still separate in there. And then if I use these little navigation arrows here at the top of the window and go back out, and there's my group again. So there we go. Now I have a center topic. It's kind of big, so I'm going to just scale it down a little bit. There we go. Make it fit inside that first grid of boxes. And maybe now I use this to make my next one. So if I hold down Option and Shift, again, I can drag a duplicate. You see I have that double arrow that happens with the Option, and Shift holds it on a vertical line. If I click on it and do Option and click and Shift to the right, it holds it on a horizontal line. So again, I can use these grids and get the exact distances using my grid layout that I want between each one. And I'm going to do it again, Option, Shift, and get that down to about there. And one more, Option, Shift, and get that there. Now I've got 4 pretty evenly gridded out circles, spheres, whatever you want to call it. Maybe this time now I raise this up a little bit just to show that that's kind of the dominant one. And these guys, I could, they're a little bit smaller, and that's fine. But maybe I start changing my colors. So I click in this guy in here, and if you hold Command down or Control down while you click, it kind of clicks into the group, so you don't have to do the double clicking thing. And then I'll come in here and I'll maybe make like this one will go red. And again, if I hold down Command or Control into there, and I'll go with like, again, just a slightly darker red. Whoop, didn't click on it. There we go, darker red. And then maybe this one, I'll try to do like a color wheel kind of thing. Let's go purple. And Command Control click into the text there. And we'll do like a magenta. And then this one, I'll go blue. I don't like that blue. Let's go with a brighter blue. I'll click into this text. Go with a light blue. And then last one, I'll go green over here. Command and Control click again. Green. Ooh, don't like that green. Let's go with the green like that. Command click into here. And slightly lighter. Now I'm starting to get a color spectrum. You know that these are all different topics that kind of go off of it. So now, and maybe I even change the font in here. Maybe I go from like regular impact. I don't know if I have another impact. This might be if I had like a thinner version of a font. So like, maybe I actually change these up. Maybe it's not impact. I'll go to say Helvetica, because Helvetica has all these other options in it. So maybe that one's Helvetica Bold, but I'm going to hold Command and click on all of these and Shift at the same time so I can get them as a group. And then I'll change these all to Helvetica as well, but I'll make these Helvetica Light, just as subtopics. It might not be readable enough. I might have to go back, but for right now, we'll stick with it. So I'm going to do this one like, let's go with CO2, which is carbon. Let's go into this one. I'm just double clicking into it, but I could have just grabbed my type tool. And let's say CO2 is a topic. Let's go with sea level. And then I'll come down here and click into here. The type tool, you don't actually have to command click. You can just get right into them with the type tool, which is kind of convenient. Let's go with population. Now that one is a little bit too big, so I've got to kind of, if I hold Option down and drag it out, and then I can grab my arrow keys. Actually, I have to command click it here, or double click into the group. And I can bring that down so it's nice and centered up. If I want to, again, I could do an align on that, but I'm going to leave it be for right now. And last but not least, let's see what's our last one here. How about food? Or actually, let's go with energy. I think energy is a better word here for. I double clicked into that, which is why everything else turned gray. So now we're starting to get a pretty cool radial infographic kind of mind map setup. Something I might want to do now is actually make some little lines kind of in between them. So maybe I come into here now and I actually grab my pen tool. Letter P is the shortcut. And I could click between these and create just kind of like a cool little curved direction. And if I just hit escape right now and switch it so that it's the green, maybe it's orange to red, like I don't want green on this, but I could come in here and pick a different color. So I'll do like somewhere in between orange and red. And then let's increase the stroke size on that. So if I come over here to weight, I could bump that up to say 4. And it's not perfect. It's not great. I want to actually change the positions of these, and I actually don't like the color very much either. So let's come up here and go with like, that one's not bad. That one's a little bit better. And I don't really like the curve. This isn't much of a distance between these, so I'm actually going to move this guy up a little bit further away. Let's go about here. Give us a little more room. And same thing here. That's about the halfway point into the next grid cube. I'll just do all these so I have them at the same, pretty much roughly the same distance. And now I'm going to zoom in here, and let's see. So if I grab this point, this individual point, I can bring this up so it's behind one, and this one's behind the other. And let's click on this point and play with the handlebars on it a little bit more. Let's smooth it out. So I'm playing with the tangents. There we go. Let's get a little bit of a more graceful kind of curvature to this. An easy way to do that is to grab your direct selection tool, which is the white arrow. But if you hold Command down, your black arrow turns to a white arrow. So we get kind of a natural flow that way, and then I can play with these tangents. That's why I use the pen tool, because it automatically makes these little tangents. And I can get a nice little kind of S curve between the two, and maybe I need to change the position of that a little bit. Now, it still looks rough because right now the level of this is on top of everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and move that back. So if you go to Object and Arrange, you can move things back and forth in the order. We could also just put it on its own layer. So one option, like I said, is to go and do Arrange. You can do these command brackets. So if I do Command back, I can make these go behind, eventually behind the orange and the red. Now it looks like they're connected in an interesting way with a little bit of a curvature to it. The other way is to start layering these things out a little bit. So like, I could say this is center node, and then I could say this layer up here is CO2, and then maybe behind all of this I make another layer, and I call this like wire connectors. And so again, I could take this guy, Command X to remove it, select this layer, Command Shift V to paste in place, and that does it too, because my layers are ordered, everything at the bottom is behind, and then this next center node is on top of that, and then CO2 is on top of that. So if I grab CO2 and Command X and put that up here and paste it, now that's on its own layer. I should go ahead and just make layers for everything else, so I'll make 3 more. And I'll just grab sea level rise, grab that, put that on layer 4, grab population, Command X, put that on layer 5, Command Shift V for paste in place again, Command X on energy, Command Shift V on layer 6. So now I've actually got these in the place they need to be. Layer 4, that was sea level. So just so I can keep track, especially if you're handing these off to other people, sometimes it's really important to name your layers so people aren't confused when they look at your design. And we'll call that energy. And I'm going to save. And I'm going to continue. So like I kind of like that curve. So I can always just Command drag that down here to the bottom. And then I can go ahead and change that to say like a blue, or maybe even like a little aquamarine. Well, I'll go with a blue. And then if I want to keep using that little curve that I made, I'm going to Option drag it over here. And then I'm just going to rotate it so that it fits behind these two as well. And let's change that one to a green. There we go. And then Option drag and hold Shift and drag that over here. And we'll turn that one into a purple node. All right, this is starting to come together. We're actually getting a real mind map here, which is kind of cool. Beyond that, you can start to play with a lot of things. This is aligned. I could turn these into dashed lines if I wanted to, which is kind of cool sometimes. And if you change the stroke number or the point number of those, they get smaller. So I could make that like a 4. I often do this when I'm doing these kind of mind map styles. Maybe I'll hold down Shift and do it on all of them. And I can make all of those dashed and 4, even though they're holding their own colors. That's kind of fun. You can add arrows to these as well if you want to. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's what you have here. Like if I'm going to end up undoing this. But say if I back this up so I can see the arrow, I can set, wrong end. I can set an arrowhead here. And there's different styles of arrowheads. And obviously that's too big, so then I'm going to take that down to like 10%. Ooh, that's too tiny. Let's do like 40%. That's not too bad. Now I can make an arrow if I want to, and I could move the tip of that arrow if I zoom in on it. There we go. So that it just points directly where I'm going to. I don't really like the arrows as much in this particular design, so I'm going to go ahead and undo it, but I wanted you to see how that could be done. And so now from here, each of these can be thought of as a node. There's the CO2 node, the energy node, the sea level node, the population node, and now I could create more around each of these. So again, since this is a group, if I hold down Option, I can go ahead and Shift, I can drag that up. And I'm going to go ahead and scale this again. I'm going to hold down Shift and Option and bring that down. That's pretty good. Whoop, I had Option on that one. I just wanted to hold Shift. Let's bring that down. And then again, since it's off of the purple, maybe I just play off of that again. So I'll go ahead and Command click on the center and make that back to a bold font, just so we can read it at that smaller scale. And maybe here we go with a lighter purple. So then I come in and maybe it's hard to see it in that palette, but if I double click this guy, I could just get sort of a slightly lighter purple. That's maybe a little too light. I'll double click my color box again. Let's bring that in somewhere in there. Not enough difference now. We'll split the difference. Let's go there. Okay, cool. That's enough of a difference. And then on here, I'll change that to just straight up purple. And now I have this group, which is cool, and I can go ahead and start to drag these around. I'm just holding Option, no shifts on this one, but trying to get similar spacing to what I have up above. And one more Option down here. This topic might have more than just 3. I could have 5 different nodes kind of coming off of this one node. And this is where mind mapping gets kind of fun because you can make interconnections between each of these nodes as well, or connect one to another. So I can keep having fun with this, and I can do the same thing here. Drag that over, and maybe I shrink it a little bit and scale it. And I continue to have that kind of style going on. And then I can drag that down here, rotate it. In that case, it needs to be shrunk just a little bit vertically. And Option and Shift, drag it up to that one. You get the idea, right? And I'm going to drag that into place there. and drag one more time and rotate it. And when I zoom out, we're starting to get a pretty cool radial layout. And if I turn off the grid, you can see how it looks off of a white background. You could start to think about how you would animate these items too, right? It's like you could reveal each of these items. It could start with the center and then the almost like 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of like pop out. And then out of this purple one, boop, 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 these 5 could kind of like unfold. They could roll out. They could fade in one at a time. They could spring to life. I'll be showing you lots of animation techniques coming out. But the key thing, let's go back to layers for a second, because right now, like everything here is on this one layer, right? I mean, I do have all of my wires are still on one layer, and those might actually still need to be moved to each one on its own individual layer, especially if you want to animate the wires, or not. You know, you could always just mask them in one at a time. There's lots of ways to animate things, but just keep that in mind. But for right now, I probably do want to put each of these little nodes at least on their own layer. So again, I would do Command X, and off of that, Command Shift V to paste it in place again, Command X, add a new layer, Command Shift V to paste in place, and so on and so forth. There we go. And you know, as you go, then you have each of these in its own space available to do some sort of animation, like maybe just a little scale up, pop, and oh, let me undo that. And then same thing, if you wanted to, you could move these onto each of their individual lines as well, or just keep them on that one layer for now. That's totally up to you, depending on what you plan to animate inside of After Effects later. So that's pretty much it. You know, you can get a lot fancier than this, but I wanted to give you a clear idea of how you could start to lay out a mind map style at least one element inside of your infographic or inside of your explainer video, or you know, maybe this is a larger bit of an overall structure for your design. That's up to you. You know, this one has kind of an organic little bubbly flow to it, but you can make these way more linear, like I said, with pointed arrows. You can make these look like little magnifying glasses where one thing is like zooming in on a detail of another. There's a lot of ways to go at it. If you just do some searching for radial design layouts, you're going to see a lot of options out there. And this is more, like I said, under the mind map style. But I hope it helps. I hope you get some inspiration out of it and learned a few new techniques in Illustrator. And please reach out if you have any questions or concerns. And as always, thanks for tuning in.